Good evening. This is the February 12th, 2013 meeting of the Grosse-Ile Township Public Services Commission. I'd like to call the meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. All rise.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to call the roll. John Riley, a member of the commission, is out of town and will not be here tonight. Phil Kennedy?
Here.
Les Schmidtke?
Here.
Ron Wilder?
Present.
Jim Budney?
Present.
Phil Kostick, Chair, and our honored member, ex officio, Ted Van Oz. Ted? We're going to start this evening off with a moment of silence. As most residents know, we had an unfortunate accident with one of our public works, public service employees, and James Alwyn Farrell passed away on January 28th. A memorial service is being held in Jim's honor on Saturday, February 23rd at 1 p.m. at St. James Episcopal Church on East River Road. Memorials may be made to the James E. Farrell Estate. Memorial donations may be dropped off or mailed to Grosse-Ile Township Hall, the administrative office. That's where the supervisor and the township managers reside. So with that, I'd like to just request a moment of silence. Thank you. We'll move on with the agenda. First, we need a motion to approve the agenda this evening.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and supported that the agenda be approved this evening as prepared and distributed to us. One question I had is, it was my intent that when we put the agenda together, that we would make, if we get through the budget, that we would make an action item out of it tonight to approve the budgets. And unless somebody has an objection, I'd like to put on under action items the approval of the budgets. Now, if we have a problem approving them, we obviously won't take action to do that, but rather than repeat ourselves, does anybody have an objection? Is that, Ted, do you know that, would that be inconsistent with the way we operate? So that was my intent. I don't want to review them twice. I mean, the operating budgets are effectively very similar to last year, and I know we have some revisions we're going to look at tonight, but so that's my proposal. So we'll make an item 12A. Action item would be to approve the operating and budgets, and then another item B, approve the capital budgets. Does that work? Mm-hmm. Can I have a motion to that effect?
So moved. Second.
Moved and supported that we add under action items approval of the operating budgets and item B, approval of the capital budgets. All in favor, or is there any discussion? All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. The next is approval of the minutes of the December 11th meeting. You've all had an opportunity to look at the minutes. Any comments? You note on page 4 of our agenda packet, which is page 3 of the minutes, you have your committee assignments, and as we approach spring, we'll be calling the committees together. And we asked on page 4 again, Mr. Manager, Barry, we asked that you ask the township engineer to begin to put permit applications in for improvements we talked about last year on Stout and Island. Mm-hmm. Have you done that?
No. Were we going to do that after our road tour, or?
No. We were going to do it because we had a plan for what we were going to do there. And if you recall, the county told us last fall we needed to get permits regardless.
Okay.
So I'd like to ask you to...
And that's the asphalt improvements you're talking about at the intersection?
Yes.
Okay, those were, we actually bid those last year.
We actually bid them.
Right.
Did we have permits?
I'd have to check to see if we had the permits, but we bid the project, but then we decided to put a hold on it, if you remember.
Yeah, I'm not sure we had permits, and the reason I brought it up is I noticed that one of them, I think it was Stout, Saturday there was a lot of water standing where it's just sitting there, can't escape, and it was warm enough that it was wet, but I'm sure it's going to freeze.
I'll check into it.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
One other thing, I spoke to Lorna, on the second page, or page number 2, it's actually the first page, we have election officers at last meeting, and it didn't include you, but you were part of that.
I was?
You were. We elected you and I believe the vice chair, Mr. Riley, and
what was on the agenda? Wasn't it just to elect the vice chair and the secretary?
that's
So, is there a new policy of the township where they want us to elect a chair? An indication from the commissions? Seems to me I remember something like that. You want to put that on the next agenda, or do you want to?
I think we should have it now.
You want to add it to the agenda under action items?
If that wasn't done, yes.
So I guess we're going to have to back up and amend the agenda again. If you want to put action item C, it would be to 12C, election of
Chair.
chair.
Chair and vice?
Well, we already did the vice
We have
chair
the vice and the
and
secretary.
So if that's what you're looking for, and I suppose it's timely to do something like that because you've got the annual meeting coming up next month,
That's it.
and you can all think, you got the whole meeting to think about who you'd like to have as chair, so, and if it isn't me, that would be fine, so it's up to you. Okay, so I guess in order, let's take a motion to amend the agenda to add that item to it. As an action item. Election of chair. Okay? Move and support it? Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, so we backed up, and then I just wanted to call that to your attention on those couple of items. With that, we'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So move.
Second.
Moved and supported that the minutes of our December 11th meeting be approved as distributed. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Next, we'll have approval of the bills, which are pages 15 through 21. You've all had a chance to look at them. I didn't see anything, in my opinion, that looked abnormal or unusual. Any questions about them? If not,
I of course have a question.
Okay.
When it comes to dollars. All right, page 24.
well, you're into the next.
I'm sorry, you're right.
Statement of
Yeah,
revenues.
I'm sorry, I'm ahead of myself.
That's good, though. You're ahead of yourself. And if there are no questions on the approval of the bills, vouchers, found on pages 15 through 21 of our packet, any questions? If not, entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved and supported that the vouchers be approved as distributed to us. If there are no further questions, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Vouchers are approved. Now, on the review of revenues and expenses, we don't have to approve them by resolution. We receive and file them. But Jim, you had a question on page 24?
Yeah, I had a couple of quick questions.
Sure.
I just wondered, on our dental insurance on page 24, we're up 119%. I just wondered why we're over.
That's a question for Ann.
And I mean, it seems like it was something that we should know and going over. Okay, so I'll ask Ann.
Jim, since you brought that up, I had a question on page number 27 about the same thing. It shows dental $10,000 even. What is that?
27.
Page 27?
Page 27. Treasurer's report.
Oh,
Disbursements.
that's the next thing. treasurer's report is different.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
That's
But
okay.
still, I didn't catch that. That's going to be a good one.
My other question was on the part-time on page 25.
Okay,
I mean, we're 239%. I just wondered what was going on there. I mean, I know we're part-time.
one of the things, the DPS has a couple part-time employees in the summertime, and we have one right now on and off. What is going to transpire in this particular case is the fire department is contributing some of the money for the wages for the part-time person because we are doing hydrant maintenance, fire hydrant maintenance, and the fire department has agreed to give us some money for the wages for that part-time person. So that will be adjusted down the road.
Okay, so that's what the increase is because we're doing that, but we're going to get
Yes.
reimbursed.
Yes, yes.
And one of the things on these statements that I always look for, this is really and it's not always posted up to date, but, and Ted, this is really your area, but I always look to see if we're halfway through the fiscal year, are we running about 50% in terms of our expenditures? And in this case, we're closing in on, we're past 3/4 of the year, and how are we looking? So you'll notice a lot of our major expenses are in the 75% range in terms of expended. So that's what I always look at, fiscal year beginning April 1st. Thank you for those good questions. If there are no problems or other questions, we'll just receive and file this report. Now we'll move on to the treasurer's report. And Ron, you had a question on dental.
Yeah, and actually, I think that if we flip back to page number 25 real quickly again, I think I may be able to help with the dental. Obviously, you're going to need to verify this, but I believe that dental insurance is self-funded, self-insured, so it's probably a reason that, those are going to vary from month to month. So it's a very much a possibility of the reason it's over.
Yeah, oftentimes it's a quarterly payment.
Yeah.
This could be
And
paid
then my
ahead.
question was, since I'm kind of in the business, I don't understand at all, is 27, the dental flat $10,000 for disbursement? No clue what that could be.
It's on the treasurer.
I'll have to ask Ann, I'm assuming it's some type of a pay-forward payment, but I'll ask Ann and I'll get it for you for the next
10,000
meeting.
is a very large amount, considering our annual budget is far less than that for dental insurance. So I'm not sure, Ted, what that is. I don't know if it's an error or if it's,
Yeah, I'll ask Ann and get an answer for you for the next
I
meeting.
appreciate that.
Okay, this is the treasurer's report, and you can see that all of our public works funds, when combined together, the total aggregate amount in the ledger is $2,600,936. On the back side of the report, we added this a couple years ago. We show the status of some of our funds, and we have the drain fund at $1,000,096,000, bike path maintenance and construction, and then the road improvement fund. And what I want to call to your attention, because we're going to deal with this in budget, you can see the road improvement fund, the balance shown as of January 31st is $280,000. But I talked to Ann about this, and you have to add to that approximately $220,000, which she hasn't posted yet from the
Well, we haven't finished our collection yet.
recent tax collection. So actually, we'll have close to $500,000. And
It does appear in the budget.
okay.
The correct number does appear in the budget.
So with that, can I have a motion to receive and approve the treasurer's report?
So moved.
Move and support treasurer's report be received and approved. No further questions. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We've received the treasurer's report. I see we only have one person in the audience. Before we go too much further, your name is James Nelson? Yes, it is. And Jim, I know you attend a number of meetings and you're interested, you fill out an application for to serve on our commission. While you're here, I'm going to just take the chair's prerogative. Would you come up to the podium and just tell us a little bit about yourself and if you have any questions, Well, we're going to get to the public portion in a minute. But
My name is Jim Nelson. I grew up in Lincoln Park 100 years ago. Not quite 100, but graduated Lincoln Park High School in 1966 and went on to Eastern Michigan to college. Met Jim Budney, as luck would have it, across the hall or whatever he was, and graduated in 1970, received a teaching fellowship in physical education and taught as a grad assistant for 2 years, and then was named full-time teacher and the golf coach in 1972. Was there and did that till 1985 when I left to go to Henry Ford Community College and be a teacher at Henry Ford Community College. And I taught at Henry Ford for 25 years. I was the associate dean for the division for 3 years, and I was the department head for 6 years.
what department would that be?
Health and physical education. Well, actually, it's called now Finance and Fitness. So it encompassed art and performing arts and physical education and a lot logic and a lot of philosophy and a lot of interesting things. So it's a challenging and fun time. I retired in June of 2010 with 40 years of service in public education in Michigan. And, obviously I've ran a lot of meetings in my day and been to a lot of meetings, and I'm a good consensus builder and I'm a team player. I fit in. I have time on my hands to do something new and different, and I think this would be a good fit for me.
So you're interested in serving on the commission?
I am, yes, sir.
And you know what we deal with?
I do.
Roads
I
and
do.
water, sewer, garbage, and
I do.
all the good stuff. So.
I do.
Okay, well, thank you for being
Okay.
here tonight. And
Yep, thank you.
thanks for
Just one quick question. Jim, how long have you lived on the island?
I moved on the island in July of 2000, so I've been a resident for 13 years. I'm Georgia.
very good.
One more little thing. My godparents owned the big white house on West River, the old schoolhouse, I guess it was at one time, next to the cemetery there. I spent most every summer there at that house with my godparents, swimming pool in the backyard and a golf course a few more feet away, so I was living the dream. So I was on Grosville a lot as a kid because I had a pretty good place to hang out. So that's it. Thanks.
Thanks for being here. Now we'll turn to manager's report, Barry.
Yes, good evening. The first item on the manager's report is a status update on the drainage project on Wilbur at South Point. If you'll remember at the last meeting, we were still short one signature for the easement. That has been, we've received that signature, we've moved forward, we've had the contracts and stuff signed, we've had a pre-construction meeting, so that project is ready to start. What we're waiting on now is just weather permitting to do it. We still hope to be able to do it during the winter months so we can get in there and get it taken care of. So when the spring rains come, the ground gets a chance to settle, and when it's time to plant grass, we can go ahead and restore it and get the grass growing. So it's not a lengthy project. Most of the work will probably be done in about a week, so it isn't something that's going to go on forever. But we're hoping to move forward with that probably within the next 30 days.
Good, and this will solve a drainage problem in the backyards of about 6 residents.
Yes, it will.
Okay, good. Next item is the unregulated contaminant monitoring rule. It's on page 29 of our packet.
Yes, and the reason I put this in here basically is from time to time we're mandated by the EPA in the federal government and the DEQ in the state government to perform different testing of our water. And this is a new one that's out, and it's going to cost considerable money. Of course, when the EPA puts this stuff out, they don't send you a check with it. They just tell you to do it. And I wanted to put that out here just to give you an idea of what we're going to be testing for. Our testing is going to occur in 2014. And it requires us to do monitoring quarterly for a year. And that's why I put this in there. You can kind of read up on it and get an idea of what they're testing for, but we're basically testing for 28 unregulated chemical contaminants and 2 viruses, I believe. So this is something that's going to take place for us starting in 2014, and the cost of that, for that 1 year of testing, is going to be in excess of $4,000 to perform these tests. So this, along with some of the other ones that we're already doing, it just continues to escalate the cost.
Barry,
Am I reading this correctly, that we got the luck of the draw? We were in the, okay.
Yeah,
I read it wrong.
all public water supply systems that have a population of more than 10,000 people have to do it.
We just eked over that.
Yeah. In fact, I think I mentioned it once before, if we were slightly under 10,000 in population, we would avoid a lot of these tests. 10,000 is the mark.
Barry, one question I thought of, I was surprised at 4,000. I thought it would be higher. But do we have to buy any equipment, and does our staff at the plant have to go through any special training to do this?
Our staff will be instructed on how to take the tests, and then we actually take this test here with our staff, and then we send them to a laboratory to be tested. And then they send the test results back to us, and they forward the test results to the EPA. But we do it with our own staff. Most of the testing that's done over here is done with our own staff, with the exception of the routine sampling of our entire system by Detroit Water. And they're over here about every other Tuesday, taking samples of our water.
Okay, in the water system, where will you access the water?
These points will be determined at that time where the locations are going to be, but I think we're actually going to sample from 4 locations.
You're just going to run out of a tap someplace?
Yeah, we will actually get them out of it. Some of the tests that go on right now are taken from the schools. Some of them are taken from the wastewater treatment plant. I think we use the post office as one of them. So there's samples from various places around the community where we can easily have access.
You're not going to take them out of a hydrant?
No, they don't come out of a hydrant.
Mr. Chair.
But this is just to give, it's kind of an FYI to a degree, if you get a chance to want to read up on it a little bit.
Yeah, I got a question. I read the thing over pretty thoroughly, and the contaminants that they're referring to throughout this thing are system source contaminants. Now, we may be a community of 10,000, but we certainly do not have our own water system. We have our own water delivery system, but we don't have our own water system. I would urge you to check and see if there is a system or a process in place where we can ask for some relief on this, because we have no control of anything that's in here, no matter what we find. So why would we even test for it?
That's a good point. But that question has come up, but the EPA doesn't care. They want every community to do it. We do this in one other instance, too. Ted, let me think just for a minute of what it is. That we test for haloacidic acids and trihalomethylenes. We do that quarterly. And even though we don't have a lot to do with it because we get our water from Detroit, every community still has to run those tests at a cost. And there's been controversy back and forth of why all 126 communities that get water from Detroit Water System have to run these tests individually. It's an ongoing controversy, but so far we have not won.
Well, I would think that we have a consortium of users downriver. I would think that this may be a great issue to at least look at the legal aspects of challenging this, because we have even if we find it, we can't control it. Right. And we're at the end of the line. We're the last guys that are going to get it.
Right.
So I think with your consortium, with the downriver group, that everybody should be screaming about this, and they should challenge it, even if we have to cough up assistance to an attorney to do so, because even if we find it, we can't do anything about it. So why would we even test for it? It's bad enough that we get sucked into these non-funded mandates, but one that has absolutely no merit, and it's going to cost us, what, $25,000 a year? It's crazy.
I agree.
Time to challenge.
Yep, there's a couple of those out there that we have to do every year. As an example, every year we have to do that annual report of our water system, and every person in the community has to get a copy of it. That's another one, that the city of Detroit could take it from one sample point, and that covers everybody in the 126 communities. But they've been arguing about that for years, and they still have not done anything about it. Every community has to run and put out this report, and it costs us every year about $4,000 to run that report.
Who are they arguing with?
Well, the DEQ mandates that testing. The DEQ from the state actually mandates that we do this water quality report annually.
Yeah, I agree with Ted that, you know, these types of things, whether it's EPA or DEQ, where it's mandated like this, that we have no control over, makes no sense. And I think one of the things, we're probably arguing with the wrong person in EPA or the wrong person in DEQ over something like this, because it just defies logic.
It does. It does. And there's, like I say, there's been a lot of talk about it, a lot of controversy, and it's even been looked into at the DEQ level in the state. And the state just kind of, everyone has to do it.
We can't just keep accepting.
No.
I agree.
At some point in time, I mean, I don't want to be the lead guy on this, but I would think if you had a consortium of 15 or 20 communities, which you do belong to, this should be a stand-up, I'm screaming at you type of mandate, and if as a group of 15 we need to hire an attorney, then we should do that, because this is crazy.
This is something that we can bring up at the consortium, that's for sure.
I would strongly urge that you do that before we start paying money to do tests, or just flat refuse to do the test, one or the other.
Yeah, and some of the testing in the communities actually is starting now. This testing procedure is going from 2013 to 2015.
So it's very scheduled.
It's scheduled.
Just do it in 2014. We're told.
That's right. That's right. We're told to do it in 2014, and we're given the month and the criteria for it. But some of the communities are starting now.
Then even more of a reason.
Yeah.
It's urgent. I mean, this kind of stuff's got to cease.
Oh, it does. I mean, we get invoices in the mail throughout the year, in 3,000 here, 5,000 here for this, that, and the other thing, and it's just unfunded mandates that we have to keep paying for, and it reflects in our water rates. When we have stuff like this that we can't control, that just adds to the cost of the escalating cost of our water. So
I wonder if the different administration we've got in Lansing now seems to be putting a lot of emphasis on controlling costs, especially where there doesn't seem to be a lot of sense made out of the expenses, that maybe instead of going right to the DEQ, we would go right to some of the administration in Lansing. We might be able to get
I'll bring this up
so
at
they
the,
can come back down on DEQ.
Sure, I'll bring this up at the consortium. We meet once a month.
Okay.
Our next meeting is in March, so that'll be something that
When
I'll
is it
put on
going
the
to be in
agenda.
March?
When is it? It's the same Tuesday that our meeting is in the morning.
I won't be here, but I would urge maybe Jim or somebody from the township board to go and stand up and voice the opinion in support of what you've got to say. And
Sure. And like I say, even at the consortium level, it's a 20-member now consortium, and like I say, we meet once a month, and we certainly can put it on the agenda. We just, as you remember, at the board level, you passed a resolution to make us members, and we put forth some bylaws and stuff that we now work under the bylaws. We elected a chair and a co-chair. The chairman is the DPS director from Brownstown, and I'm the co-chair. So that was put in place within the last couple months. So
it's a good executive, so let's go get it.
Yeah, right.
Someday,
just what I need.
Future agenda, to put that on the agenda and give us a little report about who the members are. And
Sure.
what are some of the things. I know joint purchasing was one of the...
Yes, we do quite a bit of that.
I don't want to beat this type of issue. I think you make a good point, Ted. I don't want to beat this, or take a lot of time on it, but, you know, the report that we do mail out every year, I'm going to ask a couple new members. Phil and Ron, do you remember seeing the report?
I remember seeing it. Frankly, I don't remember reading it.
And I know, Les, you probably can read it because you've done all the testing before. But
I didn't make it one year.
Unless you're a scientist, quite often, it's all about all these chemicals and the different contaminant levels or non-contaminant levels. I asked a question some years ago about the fact that we got to just disseminate it. when you talk about a community like Farmington Hills, you're talking about a pretty big expensive bill, $10,000 just to disseminate it to 30, 40,000 households. So, and the answer I got, because we're all part of the Detroit system, what they're trying to identify is if in some communities, even though it's all served by Detroit, if there's some contaminants entering the system at different points, whether it might be a River Rouge or a Hamtramck. But that still doesn't take away from the fact that if it were on file here, why would you have to mail it out to everybody? Because most people just throw it away anyway. The other thing is we are fortunate because here in Michigan, our laws are pretty well enforced. But if you go to other states and visit, you'll run into some pretty poor water quality in a lot of communities where it's a public water supply. So even though we might go to the politicians, I'm going to guess that they're going to go to the DEQ and they're going to show them all kinds of data on why it's justified to require all this testing. But anyway, I just threw that out.
You're right. That's referred to as the Consumer Confidence Report, and that comes out annually. We have to put that out before the end of July every year. And the information that we use to put that report together is information that the City of Detroit gives us directly. So it isn't anything we test for.
Right, it isn't here.
They send it to us via email. We use that data to put this Consumer Confidence Report together, and we mail it out. And like I said, it cost us probably between the actual document we have to mail and the postage, we're looking at $3,000 or $4,000 a year.
I actually thought they came out to Grosse Ile and took a sample here and tested it.
No.
Well, that even makes it worse then.
I'm just wondering, as we're talking about this, if there's any way, not just for our stuff, but everything else to do with the township, if there's ever been any consideration given to sending out a little sign-off sheet like we have so many other things now. Would you prefer just to get an email on this rather than hard copy of these kind of reports? It may significantly reduce the number of mailers that we have to send out, not just for our stuff, but for everything with the township.
Yeah. And that's another part of it, too. I'd have to look into that. But the DEQ is also specific on how it's to be distributed. I mean, it's U.S. postage, postal system. I mean, they tell you how it's got to be delivered. And then copies have to be made available for people who want to come in and pick one up off the street or whatever. But
We can send them down to the EPA office.
yeah. Well,
All right, well, in light of all the important things happening later tonight, why don't we move on? Item number 3 is the Meridian Road water main. Can we discuss that when we get to that in the review of the budgets?
Sure.
Item 4 is timing and bidding of the Park Lane Elementary School. Do you want me to cover it?
Go ahead.
Those of you that are familiar with this drain project, and I think everybody is now, unless, I don't know if you haven't been out there, but you will be. We're talking about, there's a ball field next to the school, you know what I'm talking about, and it doesn't drain, and so we've designed a drain project for that. At this point in time, what we're going to do is we're going to just wait. I'll communicate with the schools. We're going to wait till school's over, but we're going to go out and bid it before then. So we have the bids in hand. School ends mid-June. We're going to get right in there and do the excavation work, install the pipe, and then hydroseed it so that we'll have to work that all out. So
Sure.
we'll do it once school's out. That was the desire of the school system. And if you recall, I went to the school board and they're going to contribute 10% of the cost. So, or was it 20%? I think it was 20%. At any rate, I'll communicate with the school superintendent on that. Report on investigation of chip sealing. Barry?
Yes, at the last meeting, if you recall, there was some discussion about chip sealing of some of our roads in the township. I contacted Monroe County because they do quite a bit of that in Monroe. Talked to a gentleman down there, very nice, very informative, and he indicated to me that they chip seal about 85 miles of road every year. And the average cost per mile is $13,000. And he also mentioned that he'd be happy to come up here in the summertime and do a piece of road for us, just to show us what it would do and what it would be like to have it put down. He said they choose the month of August in Monroe County to do this, put this material down, because it needs to be hot and dry. And I'm a direct recipient of chip seal road. The road I live on in Monroe County is chip seal. And what it basically does is extend the life of the road for a reasonable amount of money. Fills in all the cracks with the tar, and then they come and put a thin layer of the chip on top of it. In the tar, the liquid tar sets up the chip, and it stays for quite a long time. And they've been doing that in Monroe County for a long time. So he's willing to come out. We can touch base with him anytime we want. Obviously, we need to do it in the summertime, and he said he'd be happy to come out and give us a hand, show us how it's done. We can come down there and take a look at some of the roads that have been done chip seal, and then he'd help us do what we wanted to do here to get kind of a test case going if we wanted to. So I thought that was pretty nice.
Well, this is very exciting, probably one of the most exciting things this commission has in front of it. Here's what I was thinking, gentlemen. Every April, we do a road tour where we drive the island roads and look at road and drainage problems, look at what we're going to spend our money on to do repairs and try to prioritize them. I was thinking, and I don't have an entire answer, but how about taking a field trip? What I was questioning Barry about is, okay, so if they've done this, and you indicated they repeat a lot of the roads, so the second year the wearing course even gets better, the third year it gets even better, and so forth. If you look at some of the roads we've talked about, like Bellevue, between Meridian and East River and Ferry, they're not falling apart yet, but they're badly alligatored, cracking, and if we don't do chip sealing on them, we're going to have to do some crack sealing and start that program again. But I'd really like to try it this year. Wayne County, when we met with them, indicated that they referred us to Monroe County, actually. And so what my thought is, how would you be interested if we did a field trip, took a whole afternoon and evening, and started early enough to go to Monroe and ask the Monroe County Road Commission to show us half dozen other roads with traffic volumes that would vary from 1,000 cars a day to 4,000 cars a day, because we don't have over that on Melville or Island. We don't have anywhere near that, but just to see how well their roads are holding up. And I want to do it in April after this winter, see what kind of results they have, and then have them come out and look at a couple of our roads that we might identify and have them give us a price. If we're talking $13,000 or $20,000 a mile versus it'd be versus $500,000 a mile, or $100,000. If we just resurface every mile to resurface, what they call it, where they mill off the top and resurface, you're talking $400,000 a mile.
Wow.
To come in with a milling machine and mill off the asphalt, put new asphalt down. If we could improve some roads that way, it might be worth a trial run. I don't know what your thoughts are, but I'd like to, unless somebody's going to poo-poo the whole idea, which I don't think any of us have in the past, I'd like to work towards organizing something like that.
Mr. Chairman, if you remember, while I was still working, I was at one of these meetings, and I made a suggestion of looking into chip sealing on our gravel roads. Once we do that, then we don't have to put dust bond on it every year.
I don't remember that, but that's a good idea if it'll work. Can you chip seal over gravel?
I'd have to ask them to see.
That's what, these roads on Grosse Ile used to be that way. They were gravel roads, and then the county would come in and chip seal the roads. Where the Sunoco station is, before that gas station was built, the county would come over here and dump pea pebble over there with a humongous pile. And then we knew that they were going to be coming out to do the roads. Then they would come out with a tar truck, and they would come out and put the pea pebble down on the road, and then they would drag a broom behind it with a tractor, smooth it all over. That's the way all the roads were done in Grosse Ile until the early 70s, when we got a bond issue up, and we asphalted them with Ajax paving.
Oh, really?
But all the roads in Grosse Ile were that way. They were all chip sealed.
Well, I'm open to anything, so
But
on a field trip, we could ask them about that and look at it.
Yeah, because that was a suggestion I made 5-6 years ago.
Sounds like a good idea, though. I think it'd be well worth it to do that.
Okay, so we'll work towards organizing something along those lines. Again, it would be early April. But, okay. All right, with that, Barry and Lorinda, we have the budgets in front of us. You all have the new copy. I wrote on mine under the word draft, 2/12/13 edition. But want to get started?
Okay, I'm not going to go through this line item by line item because we'll be here all night, but the first page I'll get into a little bit later as we get into the water and sewer.
Okay, this is a sample of how the water and sewer bill increases to fund the water sewer utilities would.
Yes, if you want me to review that now, I can do
No,
that.
we'll come back to it, it'll make more sense.
Okay, but the page 2 is just a summary of the revenues and expenses for the different cost centers, water, sewer, wastewater treatment plant, and refuse operations. And you can see it looks like in the draft here, it's going to increase about 6.5%.
Now, just so, the 6.5% is shown at the bottom, but the first column under revenues and expenses, that really is what's proposed.
Yes.
So, I'm sure everybody's figured that out. So the first column under water shows $2,000,008. That is the proposed revenue, and the expenses are the proposed expenses. And you got to compare those against the 2012-13 budget,
That's right.
and it shows the difference. And I would just say that the 2.75 increase displayed here, why it shows as such a small amount is we didn't, we're comparing revenues in this first line item to revenues that we really never increased the budget, but it's the budget. I mean, we never increased the rates. So it's really budget to budget. That's the point I'm trying to make.
That's right.
Because I struggled with this a little bit when I first looked at it.
Right. You're right. We did not have a water and sewer rate increase this year,
Right.
or last summer, actually, when we normally do it. Okay, page number 3.
Okay, so everybody comfortable with that page? At this point, it's just a summary anyway. Okay.
Page 3 is a breakdown of the water revenue. There again, the revenues being $2.8 million, the increase $2.75. That's taken from the first page. Just a little bit further breakdown on where that revenue comes from.
And again, comparing the proposed revenue, it shows that we're going down 0.5% in revenue, and it's only because we didn't raise the rates like we had budgeted to do. If it were to actual, it would show an increase.
Yes.
Okay? Everybody. Okay.
Page 4 is the sewer revenue breakdown. There again, like Bill mentioned, it looks like it went down about 0.5%.
But both in the case of page 3 and page 4, metered sales, the highlighted item, shows that we're talking about an increase in the metered, in the water and sewer rates.
Yes, let me back up to page 3. You're right, that highlighted amount also includes the increase proposed to take effect April 1st. And the same on the sewer rate. The estimate highlighted is the amount that we will go for April 1st as an increase in the water and sewer rates. Page number 5 is just a breakdown of the refuse revenue. That's actually going down slightly because in November, we rebid the refuse contract for 5 years, and we actually got a decrease in the costs over previous year. So that's why you're seeing a little bit of a decline in decrease in the amount.
Now, Barry, you, on that item, we not only had about a 2% decrease in the rate that we were being charged by Waste Management for our refuse pickup,
Yes.
not the recycling, but I think it was just for the refuse, correct?
The way the bid is this 5 years is they lumped it all into the trash. In other words, it's a one lump sum per.
It was a 2% reduction overall.
Yes, yeah, don't hold me to that, but it is a considerable reduction.
But there's another factor here. Didn't you undertake along with that, we were using a certain number, let's say 4,000 households, and you did an actual census, you went out and
Yes.
actually counted?
We did.
What was the result of that?
That turned out to be slightly under the number we were using. 3977 is the new count, and we'll do that now on a yearly basis in November every year. We'll go out and take a physical count. And what we did this time around to get that number accurate is we took a representative from our department and a representative from Waste Management, and we got the information from Carol off the tax rolls, and they went around and counted them, and they were right to the number that we had from our software system from BSNA.
So you dropped from 4,000, a little over 4,000, dropped a couple
We
hundred.
dropped from 4,100 down to 3,977.
Going forward, when you get a building permit issued or a certificate of occupancy, then that'll automatically adjust your...
That'll adjust, but I think in the contract, what it says is we will visit this annually.
All right.
It isn't going to be something we're going to do every month. We'll do it on an annual basis in November, is when it's kind of scheduled to be done. Yeah, you're right, Bill. It is going to maybe go up and down a little bit throughout the year, but at the end of the day, I don't think you're going to see a big change over here.
Oh, I know, but if you have 20 certificates of occupancy issued for residences, and you add each one, it adds to the number.
It does. It does.
All right.
Page 6 is a further breakdown of the water operation expenses, and that first page 6, and pretty much plugs in all of those numbers. When you get on to page 7...
Barry, I have a question. I don't want to... Anybody can ask questions. I don't want to be the hog here. What doesn't show up is I want to know, in terms of full-time regular, how many full-time employees? This includes part of your salary, part of Lorinda's? And how many full-time employees?
We have...
In the DPW, over at the garage, you have,
Well, total
3 positions?
Department of Public Services, I think we have 6.
including yourself?
Yes.
And it's split between water, sewer,
Yes.
and refuse?
Yes.
So the 2 of you plus 4 other people?
Yes.
That's what I was trying to...
We have 2 other clerical people, billing clerk and a secretary at the DPW building down there, and then we have 2 field staff at this time.
Don't you have 3 positions of field staff?
We have a part-time person we're using right now also.
Here, I've got a question on legal fees in the bottom.
Yes.
Well, showing 1,000 versus 50,000, is there something we don't know, or is this just a number that we're plugging in? Or?
This is a plug-in number at this time.
All right.
Do you like an explanation?
Yes.
We retained, Township Board retained an attorney to handle the MD, or the MIOSHA issue,
Okay,
and those are estimated numbers.
thank you.
We signed a contract, $300 an hour, with a $5,000 retainer, and we're hoping that number is an estimate for him, but it's for this MIOSHA issue.
Thank you, Ted.
Good question.
Okay, going on to page...
That was an addition from the other budget, then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, it's separate. It's separate.
Going on to page 7. These are just basically line items that we work with every day. You can see on the far right-hand column on the percentages whether we were able to decrease them over last year or whether we had to increase them. If there's anything on there that you'd like to question, let me know.
Just, Barry, if you just say something about main repairs, because it went up 50%. But
Yes.
What's that, what's your feeling on that, the idea?
We believe we're going to probably incur some additional expenses with our water main break repairs, sewer break repairs. Those actually, the number of those fluctuate from year to year, but the trend is that they're going up slightly with the mains as they're getting older and need to be replaced, and consequently we're having more main breaks.
And that's what this is? That's what this reflects?
That'll reflect, yes.
Barry, I just want to add that we're in the process of reviewing and repairing our pressure reducing stations at both bridges, and we're hoping that when those are restored and repaired, I think a lot of the main breaks we deal with due to the age of our pipe is caused by pressure increases or fluctuations. So we're in the process of replacing we're going out for bids to replace the pressure-reducing stations at the north, and either repairing or replacing, depending on the size, at the Free Bridge. We're hoping this will, certainly not going to correct them, but we're hoping it'll help.
Time frame for that?
We're already looking at the north, right?
Yeah, we on page 8, you'll see the breakdown.
Thank you.
Where it says capital outlay, repair, and replacement. What Ted was talking about here is, you'll see where it says PRV repairs, pressure-reducing valves. Those are 2 pressure-reducing valves that are at the north end of the island where the old 16-inch water main comes under by the toll bridge. These valves have not been touched in how many years, Les?
Well, I was there 43 years, and I never saw them touched.
Well, that gives you an idea how old they are. So,
Older than him?
yeah, they're older than So they're, like Ted mentioned, these PRVs need to be looked into because we do believe that some of the pressure fluctuations from Detroit are getting through them. And when they do, and if it causes a spike on our side, then that translates to a broken main.
Makes sense.
So we budgeted $50,000 for that this year. Hope to be able to do it. And there again, by the time we put the package together for bid, this is an ideal project for summer, to actually get in and do it.
So Barry, the short answer is probably this year this will be done.
Yes, hopefully, yes.
Are you looking about building a building over that thing?
Les, I give it a little bit of thought, and that's something the commission needs to probably discuss, but I got to thinking, if nobody's been in it in 43 years, why should we put a roof on it?
Well, we need to have access with it. I mean, the way you had to get into the thing, I remember when John and I went down there and pumped it out and got down in it. Even for those people that work on that thing, it's only a manhole that they got to go through. So if they had a door, like it's on the one over here by the county bridge.
Yeah. It's something we can definitely look into. When we replace the PRV valves in there, we're going to have to cut the entire top off the vault that's there.
Right.
And then we probably will at least modify the covers on that if we decide to pour it back, make them larger, so access is better getting in and out of it.
That makes sense.
Yeah, to make them better. But, you can discuss the building, I suppose, if you want to, but it isn't something we have to get in every day, It's,
Well, we also talked about, as I recall, maybe I'm wrong, looking at it when we did our tour, our road tour. Am I wrong on that?
I don't think we...
Yeah, we did.
We did say that we would go out there and look at it.
How many days is this tour going to last?
The PRV valve?
No, we can get around. We can get around the island rather quickly.
Well, there's not much you're going to see, Bill. It's all underground.
Well, I know, but in terms of location, and we can pull this.
We can point out the location, yeah.
And I guess who's doing the engineer? Well, there are 2 questions I have now. I look at your system here, your budget here. The water supply system study. Is that what's called the reliability study?
No, the reliability study's over. This water supply study is a budgeted item for the exploration of our own plant or whatever we want to do.
It was just last year, I think was it last year or the year before, we got from Sohail the water reliability study.
Yes.
We looked at the water mains,
This
the
is-
age, and so forth.
Yeah.
Changing our water source supplier.
Okay, that's what this is.
Yeah,
This is for investigation, like.
Yes.
Or whatever.
Yes, and this was the number I think we used last year, but we didn't
Just
use
a
any of
plug
it.
number, okay.
So we're just carryover from last year. The SCADA upgrade for $20,000, that's kind of an estimate right now. When we replace these PRVs, and as time goes on, we'd like to be able to collect data on our water system for our side. Right now, our SCADA system is set up that we can only collect information that Detroit supplies us from the upstream side of the meters. We'd like to be able to get some SCADA information on our side of the meters. In other words, if there is a difference in pressure from one side to the other, we want to be able to look at it and see what it is. What we have right now is good. It gives us an idea. We can go on the SCADA system and kind of get an idea whether we've got a large main leaking out there just by the flows that are coming to the island. We monitor that daily. And that's how we do
At
this.
the wastewater plant?
Water right at my desk.
Oh, at your desk?
Yeah. It's a SCADA system. Lorinda has access to it, John does, and I do.
Okay.
And I'm on it when I get in here in the morning. That's after I get my cup of coffee, that's the first thing I go to. I want to see if we got any big leaks out there someplace. So anyway, this SCADA upgrade to $20,000 is something that if we get to it, we'd like to be able to get some data out there from our side of the system. So that's what that $20,000 is for. Going down to the equipment purchases, the security system is a carryover from last year to put a security system at the DPW garage facility, the maintenance facility. And you're going to see these numbers, these equipment purchase numbers, when we turn the page and get to the sewer operation side of it, you're going to see a duplicate because we take it 50-50. We take it half from the sewer and half from water operations. So it's $10,000 for the security. We'd like to buy a water main break service truck, a step van, this year for transporting our parts and stuff to and from the field when we have a water main break. So we plugged in a number for that. And then a portable light. We'd like to buy a portable light plant for working after dark on water main breaks to make the work site safer. And that was a carryover from last year. We didn't purchase it last year. And then we plug in another $15,000 for items that come up during the course of the year that we don't really know about at this time.
Barry, question?
Yes.
So, portable lights are going to cost you $10,000.
That would be an item that we would put out for bid, but right now, the average cost of those is between $5,000 and $10,000.
Are they mounted on a generator?
No, you pull it behind a pickup truck. It's a self-contained unit. It's got its own engine. The light pole stands up, and you can raise the lights.
Right, I've seen those, but so is it gasoline powered?
Probably diesel.
Diesel? Okay.
Yeah.
The step van, is it $80,000 for a step van?
Yeah, by the time you buy the step van, and I did some checking on the prices, they run about $65,000 for the step van itself, and then by the time you outfit it with the equipment, the lights and stuff that need to be put on it that we'd have to have, you're looking at...
Have you ever had a step van?
No.
Most water and sewer departments have one.
Yes, I'm aware.
So right now, we're operating on a pickup trucks and
Yes.
5-yard dump?
Yep. We have a pickup truck that we generally transport our parts back and forth from the garage to the job site itself. It's just an open pickup truck, and that particular pickup truck is on its last leg. So.
Ted and Jim, I know you're trustees, and I know you sat through budget hearings. How do you feel about these equipment purchases? I mean, we're talking about maybe
I have
a budget tonight. I want your
Well, it's okay. This is kind of a wish list type thing. I'm not sure Barry and I haven't sat down, or Jim and I haven't sat down and had a conversation, but step vans are utilized in most communities.
Right.
But very few communities have water a mile and a quarter away. Is a maximum of 10 miles long. So if you didn't have an incident at the farthest end, it would probably behoove you to drive your pickup truck back to the maintenance shop rather than tie up $65,000 in a van to get there. Just a thought. I mean, I'm not saying I'm opposed to it or not, but that's the first thing that comes to mind. If you had 15 miles to get back to your shop, then obviously you'd want the equipment and material with you. I'm just not sure. We obviously need to keep our truck and our fleet in order. Now, can we do this with a pickup truck, or can we do it with a smaller van? Because of the miles traveled, we just don't have that many miles to travel. So we're not wasting a lot of man hours coming back and going back to the job. However, again, acquiescing to the management and the people that run it, if they feel we need a step van, then we should have a van in the process, and then at some point in time have this argument. It's not like we're going out and buying it today. But I think there will be some discussion before we invest $65,000 or $70,000 into a van. Just a thought.
Yeah, I would echo what Ted is saying. I have no problem with the idea of having a vehicle. And, you know, I'd like to hear more of why we would need a $60,000 to $80,000 van on the alley, and would there be some other type of vehicle that would suit us maybe better. But having something in the budget is
That's fine.
is good.
Yeah. I can,
Well, I asked the question because if we're, at some point, before it gets to your board, we're going to make a recommendation that, as a commission, that this is what we would like to ask for.
Right. Right now, we're providing a funding source. Whether or not we use that funding source, we'll probably use it for something, whether it be a step van or, but that discussion's for later. That discussion's for when we get to the point where we're ready to buy something. At this point, we're not ready to buy anything.
And with regard to water and sewer, we're going to submit a balanced budget. It doesn't affect taxes, it just affects rates.
Right.
Before we leave water, then, I have heard, working with a community, that I was surprised by this cost for a step van, so that you could get one for $50,000 or maybe a little less than that. I don't know.
I got on the internet because I was just wanting to plug in some numbers to get an idea what one would run, and I saw a new one on the internet. It was at a dealer someplace in Ohio, and I think they wanted $62,500 for it or something like that. And yeah, I didn't go into a lot of detail on what it had on it or what it didn't. Showed a picture of a white step van about the size that Trenton uses, Brownstown uses, you know, in their operation for their water main break repair.
And part of the step van idea is what all the equipment you can carry in it versus a pickup truck or a dump, because really they're not easy to carry on saddles and things of that sort.
One thing about an enclosed van, and you're right, it enables us to carry parts that we wouldn't necessarily have on a pickup truck. We can, and I agree with Ted, we don't have that far to drive. We have 4 or 5 miles to drive here. But if we drive out there and we dig down and we find out that we got a water service broken and we need a saddle to replace it, and instead of throwing somebody in the truck and having them run back to the garage to get it and waste a bunch of time and have a hole open in the meantime, we can have it on the step van. We go to the step van and have one on there. We can get it and put it in the hole and be gone. I mean,
Well, you know, most communities don't have far to drive anyway.
no, a lot of them don't.
I mean, look at Woodhaven, that's a square mile. Farmington is 2 square miles. Brighton is 2 square miles. I mean, so we are much bigger in terms of geographic area to cover. I mean, I don't think that's...
It's basically just accessibility of the parts and stuff, so you can have them at hand.
No, I understand. I'm just saying in terms of distance.
Sure.
We're no different than any other community. Okay.
Okay.
Commissioners, how do you feel about the equipment purchase? Everybody okay with that, or?
I think it's fine for right now. As I said, there's just starting the investigation of it, and you've got to plug in some kind of a number, and of course, you may even be able to find these things with business being the way it is right now, even at slightly
Sure.
used
Sure.
for significantly less. Or maybe something is already outfitted the way you want it. But these are numbers, and that's where you got to start from somewhere. So.
And when the time, if and when the time comes that we're in the market for something like this, we advertise for bids, and we get a pretty competitive bid, you know.
Okay. Now you can move on.
Page 9, that's the sewer operations expense, and page 9 basically is the numbers that Ann plugs in, salaries and insurances. And page 10, sewer operations, there again, like I mentioned, you're going to see the same, in the equipment purchases, you're going to see the other half of the water operation. At the bottom of that sewer operation, you're going to see where the treatment plant transfer out of money, and that's the money that comes out of the sewer operation expenses to fund the wastewater treatment plant's operation.
All right, so we have a number of new members, so on that treatment plant transfer out, just procedurally, you want to explain that, how that works? We get the sewer money into the sewer fund.
Yes.
And then we transfer it over to operate the wastewater
Right.
plant.
You'll see when we get to the wastewater treatment plant where those funds have been transferred over to the wastewater treatment plant for the operations of that plant.
Please don't dwell on this, Barry, but maintenance equipment, the huge increase in that is because
Maintenance equipment.
from 500 to 900,000.
Oh, the maintenance main repair.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Speak
that
for
is...
yourself. Just read it, Ron.
Yes, what it is every year, for the last couple of years, I don't know when it started, maybe a year ago, we put $500,000 in that sewer maintenance fund to use for the maintenance of our sanitary sewer system in total,
Okay.
not counting the treatment plant. And what we did this year is we took the balance that we didn't use in this current year, which is about $400,000, and we added it to the $500,000 that we put in there yearly, which made it $900,000.
Thank you, Bree.
That basically is driven by the EPA and the ACO that we're fighting right now. We know we're going to have to do something pretty substantial to our system, and we're now debating or arguing with them as to how we're going to do that. They want us to sign an ACO that, as I explained before, that commits to or repairs to something that we don't even know what's broke yet. It would be nice if the 900 would cover it. It probably won't. We'll probably have to go out for bonding on it, but we don't even know what we have to go out for bonding on. So this will leave us some funds available to get out there and make the repairs. All that water study that we're doing now is coming out of this fund. That's kind of an SES study, a second SES study. And the repairs, any repairs that we can make going forward, that we find that we could alleviate some of the problems, will come out of that fund. Eventually, that fund will probably roll over to some kind of a bond, but that could be 25 years down the road. But it'd be nice to put enough money aside to fix it. And it's already budgeted. The $400,000 was budgeted in the rates. The $500,000 is budgeted in the rates. That number does not have an effect on our rates.
Thank you.
Ted, I just want to add to that, too, for Phil's sake and Ron's. The ACO is the administrative consent order that the state wants us to sign. With all the sewer work we've done in the past decade, we still have a huge amount of infiltration of stormwater into the sanitary system. There's not supposed to be stormwater into the sanitary system. So we have a lot of leaks, and we're trying to identify the worst areas of leaks. Now, we have, in the past couple years ago, 3-4 years ago, we've done our first study, and we thought, I thought we'd find a big source of inflow, like a broken sewer pipe that was taken in stormwater alongside one of the canals or ditches or something of that sort. We didn't find a big source of inflow. The infiltration, a big source of it is coming from footing drains in homes that were built prior to 1972, where they directly connect their drainage around their footings into the sanitary sewer. So you get water coming down alongside the house, stormwater. It overloads our sanitary system. I just wanted to make that explanation.
It's interesting, that last huge event we had, 2 days with a snow melt and rain event a week ago, we never bypassed.
We used the tank, but we didn't bypass.
It's amazing that if you got that same flow 2 months from now, you'd put 6 million gallons into the river. So we've got a hydronics problem as well as an inflow problem, and that's why we don't want to commit to the ACO. We don't know what's going on. We really don't. Why would it 2 months make that much difference with the same amount of rainfall? It's really, and so I think we're going in the right direction. I think we've got the right people on it, and I think we will find the problem, and it would be terrible to put another $20 million and find out we can't fix it, and we should have been storing it in the first place. So I think we're going in the right direction here.
And some of this testing was going to be done last year was too dry. So we'll test the flow during the storm event to try to see where it's coming from.
Okay.
Any questions on page 10, other than those?
Okay, page 11, refuse operation expenses. You'll see that went down overall about 13%, and that was because of the rebid of the new contract. We got a reduction in cost. Page 12 is just a continuation of the refuse operation. Refuse is pretty cut and dried.
Just a quick question. Refuse, the salaries full-time, how many, what's that? Is that one person?
And prorates all 3 cost centers. She takes water
So
operations.
this is a proration of all our employees?
All of the DPS.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
And now we go to page 13, treatment plant revenues. See, that went down about 1.5%. Page 14, treatment plant expenses. At the top of the list is the United Water. That's the cost of operation of the plant for a year in the budget. It runs around $380,000 a year. And basically, the only increase we have there from year to year is the CPI, the cost of living index that Detroit publishes it.
It's built right into
It's built right into the contract. And then you can go down there to the bottom where you can see capital outlay. And these are the projects or the capital improvements that we budget for every year for maintenance of the plant. The plant HVA system, we put $200,000 in there. I don't think we've used $200,000 in a year in a long time, but we put that in there. And then you'll see the other individual items, and this is made up of this is taken from a 5-year capital improvement plan that we put together for the wastewater treatment plant. And every year we have a list about this long of various items that we want to accomplish. Most of the time on this list, we actually do most of them. In fact, about 95% of these items that are on this list will be accomplished this year. There was one that's on here that I want to mention that's a carryover from last year, and that's the backup generators at the lift stations that we have in the township. We have 5 pump stations in the township that operate our system. Last year, we were going to replace, we put in the budget to replace or to install permanent generators at these locations. Right now, we use a portable. We hook it behind a pickup when we have a power failure. We take it out to the site. We plug it in, and that portable generator operates that plant until we get power restored. We would like to we have 5. We would like to bid all 5 of those out at one time so we can get one company that's going to service all 5 of them rather than bid 2 of them out last year and have one company from this company and then 3 more different ones here. So we decided to move that forward and do it all in 1 year. So we'll have 5 generators that would, if the commission moves forward with it, that we will bid out, and they will install stationary generators at these 5 locations, and hopefully one manufacturer. So that's
You're talking about $12,000 a generator?
roughly, yeah, roughly. These generators will probably be natural gas powered. That seems to be the way to go today. A few years back, diesel was the way they usually operate them, but now natural gas is the way to go. But anyway, that's one item that you'll see at $60,000, which is kind of a large number, but that does include the replacement of all 5 of them. The rest of the stuff is just routine.
Barry, a question on overtime. Why is it going down?
It's probably gone down because we probably haven't utilized them this year as much. I mean, we had a dry summer, so we didn't have a lot of storms and stuff where the operators had to come in on overtime to oversee the plant. That is a number that fluctuates from year to year, just depending on how much time they have to spend at the plant. It might, off the top of my head, I'd say because it was such a dry season.
Okay.
Page 15, and now we're getting into the drain and storm drain maintenance revenues and expenses. This is part of the operation or the oversight of the DPS Commission regarding storm drainage. So you'll see what the revenues coming in here, and I believe we still have a millage, is that correct, Ted, that we're still collecting for storm, for drainage?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so the tax revenues you'll see at the top is $183,000. I'm not sure how long that goes yet, but that millage.
I don't have that with me. I think
you mentioned something about comes in November.
2015, I believe.
15, okay. Anyway, we still have some revenue each year coming in that goes into the drainage fund. You'll
Well, your
see,
drainage fund will be here. This is the budget.
yes,
The drainage fund's collection is in here.
it's in here?
Yes.
Okay. So prior year, we got about $1.2 million right now in prior year resources in the drainage fund, and then you'll see the expenditures. And we have in the community $100,000 drainage grant program that Lorinda works with the residents in the community, where we will contribute a certain amount of money toward a project that a resident has to remedy a drainage problem on their property. And that's slowed down a little bit, I think. I think we only had like 3 last year.
Yeah. That 183,150 is this year's collection.
This year's collection?
Yes.
Okay. And then you get down to the drainage maintenance, and you'll see some numbers there. The airport oil separator, that's a maintenance item that we have here on the airport that's stormwater driven. We plug that number in case we have to do any maintenance on that system. We haven't used it in quite a while, but it's a number we put in. The Groseal drain maintenance, that's another number we plug in at $50,000. I don't think we used any of it last year. And then we have road ditch enclosures and relocation for road improvements. We do have some drainage projects coming up this year that we will be moving forward on. One of them is the intersection of Park Lane and Horse Mill, along with the bike path drainage improvements that are going to be done with the installation of the new bike paths on Horse Mill.
Barry, how much is that Park Lane Horse Mill
Park Lane.
allocation?
For the intersection or the
Yeah.
entire
Of the
project?
150, is it?
It's about 100.
It is?
Yeah. It's right. Yeah, that's a ballpark number, Bill. It's in that neighborhood. The intersection improvements themselves was 50 or 60,000, I believe.
Yeah, I think the intersection.
Yeah. So we plugged in. That's normally a $50,000 number that we go from year to year. We put the additional 100 on it for that particular project.
Okay.
And then the South Point Wilbur Drain. That's a $60,000 number. That's for what's going to take place here in the next month or so. Part of that will probably be even in this year's resources rather than into the next fiscal year. The Park Lane Drain, Bill, that one we plugged in $65,000. I think the estimate was in that ballpark, 60, 65.
Is that with or without the schools? Is that number?
Well, that's certainly high. We were talking about a cost of about $55,000. We haven't bid it yet. But
Yeah.
That, Jim, that would be, the school would pay, it would be less once the school is paid. So it's a plug number since we don't have the bids in yet. The estimate was about $55,000.
So that pretty much takes care of drainage maintenance. Then we go down to stormwater management.
Yeah, I just want to back up a minute. You skipped over the $70,000 for the safe routes to school.
Okay, that was some bike path expenses that we're taking care of over by the soccer fields, I think it is, Jim.
Yeah, when they did that safe routes, they, as part of that, they added in the bike path around Meridian School there.
Yeah.
It goes
From Meridian out back to the
soccer
soccer
field.
fields and everything. And
Are you aware of that, Ted, too, that $70,000? Ted,
Pardon?
are you aware of that $70,000 as well?
74,000, yeah.
Safe routes to school?
That project's already been done.
Right.
Wayne County is Johnny on the spot with their billing. I'm not one to call them.
Well, we owe them the money, so...
Well, we did get a invoice from Wayne County, which is a contested invoice, which includes part bike path, part sidewalk, I'm sorry. And that was included, we assumed that was included in it. It wasn't broken down. But we'll wait and see. We put it in the hold file. Probably a good place for it.
All right, well, we're going to budget it because it's been indicated that...
It's committed money, that's for sure. We don't want to spend it and have them come and ask for it.
Okay, the next, going down one, where it says stormwater management, that's a plug-in number also. There again, this is one of those mandates from the MDEQ that we monitor our outfall of stormwater into the river, and we use that number because we never know exactly what we're going to be faced with through the DEQ. Last year, we didn't use much of it at all, I don't think, $10,000 or $15,000, but...
Was it dry?
Yeah, it was pretty dry, but it's a monitoring program we have to do and make reports to the DEQ and follow up with any corrections that need to be made. And then the rest of it, administrative and the permits and fees, the $25,000, yeah, that's when the DEQ sends us a bill and we have to pay an invoice for an annual fee or something like that for stormwater.
Okay, so I want to just say to the commissioners that when you drive around this winter, before we do our field trip, when I drove around this weekend last, I noticed a couple of spots, and one is on that I looked at and looked at it over the years, is on West River, just near Horse Mill, but it's right north, adjacent to the entrance to Island Estates. There's that ditch crossing, that there's a drop in the West River Road, and I'm going to want to go look at that, and we can always amend our budget and add that to it as a project because the money's there if we want to do that. I'm not saying we want to do that. It's one that I would like to do. I think it would make a safety improvement, a nice road improvement, but as you drive around, kind of look for drainage problems that you might see, so we'll try to identify some drain projects. I've had the philosophy that if the money's here, we should solve some problems with it. Not spend it all, but we should solve some problems. That's kind of how I feel about it, so enough said.
Okay, moving on, page 16, the Bike Path Fund, revenue and expenses. $700,000 is what we have in there in round numbers. $330,000 for new bike path construction and $370,000 for maintenance. Page 17, revenues. There again, the $330 and the $370. I don't believe there's any additional funds being collected in that fund right now. The millages have stopped.
Yeah.
Bike Path Fund construction expenditures. There again, that airport recreation area bike path, that's the 70 that was you saw earlier in the budget, 74. And then the Horse Mill Meridian to Park Lane bike path is $255,900, and the total between the two is $330. Page 19, Bike Path Fund maintenance expenditures. You'll see various things on the line items: seal coating, path perimeter debrushing, mowing, blacktop replacement, signs replacement and path marking, sweeping and cleaning, winter maintenance, and then, of course, a reserve. These are all items that we do throughout the year on the bike path. Snow removal in the wintertime, sweeping in the summertime, if there's any maintenance that needs to be done on the path itself, crack sealing, seal coating, it all comes from the Bike Path Maintenance Fund. Page 20, Road Improvement Fund, revenues and expenses, $697,500 for both. Page 21, the property tax collection, and that was the millage that we voted in, 2 years ago now, or somewhere around there. We generate $222,000 a year through that millage.
And that shows you your actual balance, operating balance.
Yes, yes. And the interest earned, and then the prior year resources of $475, and the total right now is just under $700,000.
That money, just so everybody's got that in their head, the 222 will be posted from this current collection from December 1, 2012, at the beginning of this fiscal year. Next
Right.
December 1st in 2013, which will be the fiscal year, we'll get another 222.
That's correct.
So the 700,000 or 697 shows both those tax collections in the same period. But
That's right.
so
That's right. That's why the number on the treasurer's report where you see $280,000, that's what we have of cash right now. But if you add these other two receivables to it, the 222 twice, that brings you up to about $700,000. Right.
And when I said that about the treasurer's report, which showed 280,
Right.
that if we added another 220 to it, we'd be at 500. That ties in with this figure, because we haven't collected, we won't collect that, or begin to collect that other 220,000 until December 1 of 2013.
Right. That brings it, those, two of those collections will bring it up to this 697.
For now, as we
700,000.
plan, money in the bank, we have $500,000.
Okay, page 22 is kind of a breakdown of the road improvement fund expenditures. Every year, we use about 65,000 of it for dust control on our gravel roads. Last couple of years, we've been pretty lucky. We've only had to apply it one time, so we've actually saved some money there. It runs about $30,000 an application, and we always make sure that there's enough in the budget to do two if we have to. But I think the last 2 years in a row, we've only had to do it once. In the concrete joint and slab repair, there's no money put in that, but I'll explain that down further. Snow plowing and winter maintenance, we plug $40,000 into that spot because that's the money that we use for Wayne County in the wintertime to assist us with our priority road system plowing and salting. Been real lucky here lately with the past winters that have been mild. We've got that number down with Wayne County now to around $5,000 a year. So if we start having harsher winters, that number will start climbing again. Because next year's amount that we pay Wayne County is based on this year's product, you know. Reserve for capital improvements, road maintenance, we put about $250,000 in there, and as we did last year, we bid out some concrete slab replacement around the community, and we bid some asphalt work, but we only did the slab replacement. We didn't do any asphalt work, and I think we spent about $125,000 or $130,000 last year on the concrete slab repairs. And I think the commission there, again, will be discussing that probably after the tour in April to decide what projects we want to do in the upcoming summer. And then we put the $45,000 in the budget this year for the LaSalle Court Fund. I think that was
That money was reserved from last year's discussion, if you recall.
That's correct.
And then the other number is the 268, and that's just reserved for future annual maintenance. So total, the roads, in the grounds and maintenance, in the mowing, we put $25,000 in that because throughout the year, the county comes over here and mows the roadsides, but we also send a couple guys around and do some other trimming and make the parkway look decent in different areas around the township. So that's what that number's for. So that's about it. That's about $700,000 budget in the road improvement fund.
Very good.
I got a question on the South Court.
Yes.
Is that concrete replacement, or is that putting 2 inches of asphalt on that road?
We never discussed the 2 inches of asphalt. We talked about concrete replacement. We have a cost estimate to do the whole court. It's about $129,000. What we did last year is when we put our road program together, we just set $45,000 aside to begin to put money away to do it, with the idea that maybe we'd try to do it all at one time once we had enough money and/or met with the residents. We attempted to meet with the residents last summer, and they were unwilling at that point to meet, but we're going to attempt to meet with them again this spring and talk about how we can jointly approach it. So we'll go look at it again. It's still there.
Yeah, because that's, the county went and did Canal Drive, HCL Jackson, they went in and put 2 inches of asphalt over the concrete, and that solved the problem.
Yeah, this, you've seen the cracking on the cell.
Oh, yeah, I went over there.
Yeah, so I don't think we can offer that as a solution to the residents, but that's not going to look very good for those 9 homeowners. I think the total replacement is the right answer. Plus, there's a drainage problem there. That sub-base is pretty wet.
Yeah. No, I have nothing on that. I just want to comment that on this budget, we have some really uncontrolled expenses, which is, and one of the reasons was that MERS, who handles our retirement program, revised their actuary. All of our retirees were actuaried out at 30 years. They decided to knock it down to 27. And so we got hit pretty hard, township-wide, about $160,000-$170,000 on the refiguring of the retirement. I mean, it's a good thing because it's just paying it down. We have about, township-wide, we have about $7 million unfunded. But we have about $88 million in the account. So there's some question as to whether we're getting our fair share back through the program or not. But anyway, they decided they're going to pay it down in 27 years rather than 30 years as mandated by the government. So that's why you'll see those hikes at 13, 12, 15%.
Right. And I figured we didn't have any control over those figures anyway, so. All right, so these are the operating budgets. I didn't hear any large objections. If I'd entertain a motion of some sort to either approve or you could always table, but no, we didn't talk about the rate increase. I guess we should go back to the first page. We should do that. Ted, do you want to try this? Have you been through this with Ann, or?
Well, basically what we're doing, we don't, Barry can probably handle the numbers better than I can, but basically we had a 12% increase last year, Barry, was it 12?
Yeah, 10.7, I think, is what we got.
10.7?
Yeah.
And we were anticipating, according to Barry, a 4% increase this year. I believe that when I see it.
Yeah.
Right
Right
the first time we've ever gotten to those kind of numbers. But we didn't have the increase last year, so over the last 2 years, we've had approximately it'll be over a 2-year period, we've had approximately a 15% increase in water consumption usage. And we're going to raise the rates to compensate for that. The total rate increase will be approximately 11.7% on the bill. That will recapture, plus it'll make the sewer plant operations whole. I'm going to ask that maybe you wait till the next meeting to approve this budget, because I have a couple of issues I want to deal with Ann that may change the bottom lines here. I see a couple of issues here that I want to discuss with her. I've seen them for the first time today myself at our budget hearings, and I see a couple of items when going through this today that I'm not sure we're not maybe getting a little heavy on anticipated cost, and try to get these rates maybe reduced a little bit. I'm not sure I can, but I hate to have you approve it now and then I come back in the 1st of March and say we're going to make these changes and you have to readdress it again. I would have Barry bring it back to you at the meeting in March, and with the changes, if there are any. If not, you can just approve it the way we just went over it. I just have a couple of issues here.
All right, well, I don't have a problem in delaying it, but I just want to point out, I want to ask how many people, I'm going to be gone to Florida for a good part of that period, and I can't come back for the meeting a month from now, but I could 5 weeks from now. So I was going to ask, our next meeting is March 12th, and you're
I'll be gone. I will be gone. If you want to move it, even if you want to move it back a week, I'll still be gone, so.
Either way, you'll still be gone.
You won't be there March 12th.
I won't be March 12th, but if you want to move it, that's fine.
When is your board meeting?
I'm going to be back for the 28th. It's the annual meeting.
Okay, March 28th is the annual meeting.
I think it's the 28th. Is that right? 25th?
It's a Monday.
25th. It's a Monday. That's correct.
Our meetings are the 11th and the 25th.
All right, 25th.
So when will you be back? Just before the 25th?
I'll be back on the 25th.
No.
I'll get here in time for the brunch.
All right, well, okay, so who else is going to be out of town for the 12th?
I'm not going to be able to be here.
You're not there? Well, you're short a member at this point. You guys are going to be here?
Anytime you wish.
We can hold a meeting down in Florida.
Well, you want our consent of some sort.
Well, if you want to approve this tonight, And I can just bring I can have Barry bring the changes forward at the next meeting. It really, not all commissions review. This is the substantial budget in the township, and not all commissions review and approve budgets. That's usually handled by the department. If you want to review, they all review it, but I'm not sure that the approval process has to be done at the commission level. But if you want to approve this pending some minor changes, that's fine.
Could we do that pending minor changes?
Sure.
I think that's reasonable. I mean, we know we're advisory. That's where our role is.
Sure.
So
And Barry will bring those changes back to you if there are any. I'm not even sure there's going to be any.
we had an opportunity. I think the bigger issues that we've identified, I think we're all comfortable with them. I guess what drives water and sewer, of course, is the rates. We didn't have a rate increase last year. It's nice to not be able to increase rates, but we have to be realistic.
Sure.
And so if we're willing to talk about this 11.7% increase in the water sewer bill based on all this,
That's really going to be a carryover for last year, this year, until the following year.
so
We're actually looking at about
at
addressing.
this point, in terms of, I'd entertain a motion to approve recommend approval of the budgets pending any minor variations as determined by the Board of Trustees.
So moved.
You got that language? You want to read it back?
Recommend approval of the budgets pending minor changes.
Variations
By
sounds better.
Variations,
it's
okay.
by the Board of Trustees.
By the Board of Trustees.
So on the whole, we're approving the budgets. These are the operating budgets as they've been presented to us. Will that work for you then, Ted? Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah.
That'll work for you?
That's fine, but
Okay, any further discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
I need a
Oh,
second.
I'm sorry, for a second. Second. We have a second. Now, any further questions? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? So we have, in concept, the approved budget to recommend forward.
Right, and I think that's, for the most part, this is the document. It's just some minor
I'm
issues.
comfortable with it, yeah.
There's some minor issues that,
Yeah.
like I said, I sat in budget meetings all day today, and it's the first time Jim or I have seen this. It's a lot to
Now,
digest.
one thing, I want to refer everybody to the packet, page 46. We also want to look at the capital budgets, and just to move some of these forward, we're not really approving the budgets per se, we're just approving the capital plan.
Right.
Am I correct here? So the capital plan is not a budget per se. So we haven't determined whether we're going to move forward on any of these, and if we are moving forward on them, I say that with, for these major capital projects, we'll have to come back and have an individual discussion on them. But just looking at page 46, we have in our capital plan for water and sewer project, we've had East River for $1.5 million on in the capital plan for some years. We've had the Biomar between West River and Thurifor for $1.5 million. And then last year it was brought to, 2 years ago it was brought to our attention by Barry that he'd rather see us focus on the Meridian, which we talked about at our last meeting. It's 4 miles of Meridian water main where we've had more and more frequent breaks, and the total cost for that replacement to a 12-inch pipe is $4.5 million. Sewer main repairs, we've been budgeting at $500,000 a year, and that's reflected in this budget. So we have to settle on, at some point, what we're going to do. But what I'd like to do is just get a motion to approve the water and sewer projects in the plan. It's not a budget yet, it's in the plan. And we'd have to figure out, for any of these, how the financing is going to be put in place for the water projects. Does that sound reasonable? Ted?
I'm not sure what you just asked.
Ted, what I'm asking is to approve the plan, that these are planned
You
projects.
know, because it's, the only thing that we are funded at this point are the first 2 items on this list, and that's through bonds that we haven't taken yet. If we were going to move into the third phase, which would be the Meridian, 4 miles Meridian at $4.5 million estimate, we don't even have funding for
Well,
that.
okay.
And if we want to do all 3 of those items, we're $7.5 million. We certainly don't have funding for that.
Okay, let me back up a minute. Since we've done roads and drains and bike paths, we've included them in the budgets we just approved. The only outstanding issue is really these, and we approved the sewer at $500,000. The only outstanding issue to discuss is what are we going to do for water main? And, correct? So I'll back off that. Originally, we were going to look at approving capital budgets, and we did in the review we just went through, and looking at these details. We're not ready to move forward with water main project.
Well, I don't think so. I think we've got a lot of discussing to do here, because I don't think we have capital available to, I guess we need to review with the engineer what kind of level of importance we want to put on this stuff.
Well, okay.
Won't that be partially determined too by the study that we're going to be doing?
For sure.
Well,
That's something different.
Well, here's where I'm coming from with water. The fact is, we all got a letter today. I guess we should acknowledge it. You received it today?
I got it yesterday.
From
I believe,
Mr.
or the day
Hall, did you all
before.
see that? So I'll just paraphrase the letter. Mr. William Heil dropped off a letter, or
Yes, he did.
mailed it today, and he's basically saying, based on the number of water main breaks we continue to have, that we need to move forward with water main replacement. And he, on his own, threw out some figures that if you spend $1 million a mile to replace water main, and we have 30, I don't know how he came up with this, 31 miles of water main, so he said $31 million, and he figured out that if we borrow the money at 4% interest and pay it for 20 years, the average payment per tax unit, assuming $4,500 tax-paying unit, or 4,500 tax-paying units, amounts to $45 per month per unit. Well, okay, so that's his figures. But he's making the point that we need to have a program for water main replacement, which we've been talking about for years, and we know that. It's true that our water mains are 67 years old in some spots. So since we don't know what our costs are going to be, our obligations with the sewer, we can't commit to water right now.
Well, the reality is we have, 65 miles of water mains?
Roughly.
Not 31. I don't believe we have bonding capacity at this point for $31 million.
No, we don't.
They'd laugh us right off the planet, plus the township would be in debt in bond issues up over $100 million for a community this size. That's quite a commitment. I understand his concern. I really do.
Well,
But if you wanted a complete system with no water main breaks, you need to replace 67 miles of water main breaks. I mean, we need to get really practical here. And I think our approach is very practical. We're taking the worst and the smallest to improve firefighting capacity and moving forward with it on a gradual basis or at least an educated basis. And we'll see where it comes out. But there's no way that we could bond out
I understand
$31 million.
that. Well, we wanted to acknowledge his letter, and it's well thought out. But here's what I'm thinking. With regard to water main, when we don't have to do it when we have the field trip, but this spring when we have meetings, I don't want to lose sight of the need to start to do something. And one thought I have is, down the road, maybe in April, May, we could decide. But maybe we should talk to the engineers, township engineers. I don't think that the Meridian has been designed, am I right on that?
You're right, it hasn't.
So the design cost for a $4.5 million project would be $100,000 or $200,000 to start with. It wouldn't be complete, but the thought is, should we think about taking one of these projects and actually, now we did do the design for East River,
Yes.
It's actually been bid.
Yeah,
fact,
East
we
River
bid it,
Road's
right.
been bid.
but if we're going to change gears, I'd like to discuss in the future, and we don't have to do it tonight, is should we think about authorizing some engineering or a portion to get started on Meridian? And I'm saying we could talk about that in April, May, June, whatever, but I don't want to lose sight of the fact that we need to plan to do something at some point. Okay? That's right. And along with that, maybe at one of those reports, Barry, you could go back for the last 2 years and identify, like you've done in the past, a map
Sure.
where all our water main breaks have been. Would you do that?
Yep, can do it.
And we'll have this at a future discussion item?
Sure.
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
there's one thing that we should look at and try to get done as soon as possible, and that's the problem we have up on Park Lane at Wood Drive. We need to put in 600 feet of water main to tie into Horse Mill, to tie into that 12-inch main, so that we complete a loop down there. That's a dead end, and in the water report that they were here in November, they told us that was a very bad situation there. Open the fire hydrant up, you can't get any water out of it. I had it measured, and it's 600 feet from the new extension to Horse Mill.
All right. Did you make a note of that?
Yeah.
You're aware of that?
I know exactly what he's talking about. Mm-hmm.
Can we look at that in April then, Les?
Yeah, it should get done
We
soon
want to put
because
it on our list. I mean, I'm not familiar with that location. And I forget in the report, you're referring to the pressure report reliability
the
study
report that they were here,
last year,
Yeah, that was one of the...
yeah,
and that was one of the bad spots?
A year ago, that water main was extended up there to accommodate a couple of new homes that were being built on Park
Oh, yeah,
Lane.
yeah.
And I believe we had discussed at the time extending that up to Horse Mill and tying it in, but we did not do it.
And that's not been engineered either, then?
No. I mean, the engineering to do that would be minimal. I mean, it's not a...
I wonder if we could use the existing permits or if they're expired.
I'd have to look, Les, I don't know. If they're, well, knowing the county, we'd have to get some additional permits.
What I mean with the MDEQ.
Oh, the MDEQ is that's not a problem.
Okay. Last, we made note of that. It'll be reflected in the minutes. And at our next meeting, whenever that occurs, could you ask to take a look at that? And see-
Sure.
yeah, so he'll rough out a rough estimate of what it would cost to replace that?
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, are you saying that the March meeting is going to be on, you're asking if everybody wants to do it on the 19th rather than the 12th? Is that what your question is?
I guess at this...
Yeah.
I guess at this point, I'm thinking, if Ted's not going to be here, and if I can't be here, you're going to be out of town for part of it, we can look at if we've approved the budget in concept, unless we have to have a meeting, maybe we can just postpone it.
At this particular time, there's nothing scheduled for the March meeting that we would, at this time. You know, if something comes up between now and then, we'd have to have one, but right now, there's no need for it, I don't think.
Maybe we just, we'll bypass it. We'll see how unless I have to decide.
If something comes up, we can have one, that's for sure, but if
As long
nothing's...
as we have a quorum.
Yeah.
Okay? So, at this point, I'm assuming maybe we won't have a meeting.
Okay.
So that takes care, we're down to public comment. Jim, I guess you...
I'm sorry, we have to elect.
Yes.
Oh, action items, okay. So the issue before us tonight is to elect the chairman of the commission, or at least make an advisory recommendation on a chairman to the Board of Trustees. Are there any nominations for...
I nominate William Costick.
Okay.
I second that motion.
Are there other nominations?
I make a motion that the nominations be closed.
I second that.
All right, so all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Well, thank you. I was willing to give up this position, you know. So
So all kidding aside, you really do a very good job at this, and we're happy to have you.
well, thank you very much.
Not too much.
Took me 18 years to get rid of it. You're not getting rid of it that easy.
Well, thank you all. Public comment, Jim?
Be gentle.
Just real quick, I always hear in the newspaper that Detroit is raising its water rates to the suburban communities. And, it didn't used to be that there was any representation on the Detroit Water Board from the suburbs. And I think now that there are 2 people on the board, it's who knows what's coming out of there. So I think it's a good idea that we have two people from the suburbs on the board, because, you know, those 10 and 12% increases, I mean, these water rates are just going through the roof. I assume we get our water from Detroit?
Yes.
Yeah. So, just food for thought. So,
Thank you.
Thanks.
Let's hope that things do change.
I do pay attention.
And I just want to acknowledge that we have received a letter of resignation from David Nadeau, who was a short-term member of this commission, but he did indicate he's moving from the island, so I want to thank Dave for his short service, and we have received his letter, so we'll work on a replacement. Commissioners' comments or final reports? So go around the table. Ted, do you have anything you want to add?
Nothing.
Les?
No, I said my piece about the park line.
Bill?
Nothing to add.
Ron?
Nothing.
Jim?
Nothing. Well, I do have one thing. I just want to, something we always talk about is the foot of Church Road and East River, and Sacred Heart had their people in, and they completed that, and I have noticed that it's been drier down there, so just, that's all I have to add.
Well, what has the church done? What have they done?
Well,
A couple of years ago, they did some drainage work around the church.
The county did, or?
No, the church
church.
did. And they run a couple of storm lines out to the edge of the road, and they just spilled them on the shoulder, and it was running downhill to the intersection, and it was creating a puddling in that area, and then when it would freeze, it would make the road slippery.
Yeah, it was a combination. We had the Wayne County problem with the draining down there, but there were three, I
Yes.
think, that they had coming out of there, and right at the hill, so everything ran down, and that added to it. So it's better. It still needs to be worked on, certainly, but at least it's drier than it was.
Yeah, what they did was that church installed a line along the edge of the road where they tapped in these three locations underground, and they run them into a catch basin that's
I
on the
thought the
corner.
county did some work there as well.
They did.
They did.
And remember, we haven't given up. Now, the last meeting we had with the county, we had asked them about Church Road fix and Stoughton Island on East River Road. And what they said was they couldn't commit to anything until they see how they got through this winter. And so in April or May, they'll make a decision what they can do for us. But we intend to get back and have a meeting with them as soon as winter's over with. And now, if you go to the airport on Eureka Road, you can see how badly that pavement is deteriorated with rebar showing right through the top. Found out that the city of Romulus told me that they're going to fix that this summer. The Wayne County is, but at any rate.
I mean, other than being a speed trap right in that area?
And I don't have anything to add to the meeting except to say we'll let the commissioners know about the March meeting, probably by the end of this month. And if we don't meet in March, we'll still plan, contact everybody and try to select some dates for early April to do some of these field excursions we're talking about. Okay? So with that, I'll entertain a motion to...
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Moved and supported that the commission adjourn its February 12th meeting. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Meeting is adjourned.